I wanted to talk a little bit about the funeral um, of one of the administrators of the Veterans Outreach of Central Oregon that passed away recently. I went to her funeral. I remember I interviewed her and Kathy and the guy who's in charge. He's like an old retired military general or something like that. God, I forget his title and rank and everything, but they call him Chief. They call him Chief because he is the chief. He was a chief. So I don't know if it's a Marines thing or Army Navy thing or something like that. But I remember during the interview, it was a little bit intimidating because I didn't really grow up in a military background. I've had like relatives who worked on Air Force bases and stuff like that, and went to high school to train to go to the Air Force. So, but I didn't really have like the okay, you're speaking to a high-ranking military general. This is what you do. I so I remember I was just kind of awkward, and they're looking at each other like, "Who the hell is this kid?" But at the time too, I was kind of going through some things, so they kind of brought me in to help heal me. I remember that was kind of like um, one of the goals of the chief there because they bring in like veterans. Sometimes they find them in like homeless communities or whatever, or they just come in and ask for help. Or it just might be like homeless people too who got in a situation like that for whatever reason. Maybe they grew up in it. I actually dated a gal who grew up in homelessness, in parents who went to jail, didn't have parents, sexual abuse, the whole thing. So I have a little bit of perspective. I know she went there to get help, and they'll help anybody. You don't have to be a veteran. That's just it's like going to a camera store where they sell more than just cameras. It's like it's more than just that. They help out the entire community. You don't have to be a veteran, but the veterans do need to be helped out. I remember my uncle. God, he was like probably a decorated Air Force pilot in Vietnam. Um, yeah, I don't think he ever quite recovered after Vietnam. It's like he was trained to be an engineer, super smart guy, genius. Yeah, pilot in the Air Force. He saw all the freaky shit. God, I'll even get into this. Like, the stories of Vietnam are so horrific, they can't even be, like, shared. It is so horrifying and just horrific. I think it would be just respectful to share some of the traumatizing events he went to. And that was in the Air Force. That was being in the air and just landing and going up in the air. There is still carnage. I remember my history professor in high school. We watched like a World War II video about pilots in World War II. It was like a Hollywood production, but I remember he pointed out it's like even when you're like a pilot, it's still not sterile. It is still carnage, and it really is. It is just as it can fuck you up just as much as being on the battlefield, which it is a battlefield. It's just different. But God, there is carnage and is horrifying beyond description. Especially Vietnam. It was an evil war. It really was. I don't know if it's a CIA involvement or what it was, but God, it was just carnage. So, anyways, I won't dwell on that anymore. I'm sorry. I don't know why I got into that, but it really needs to be understood. Like, it was hell on earth. I don't know how anybody survived that, let alone my uncle. It's maybe they just didn't have like the services they had back then, but he spent the majority of his life. He was a trained Air Force pilot, survived it, Vietnam, trained engineer, did amazing engineering feats, a genius, but he just stayed a janitor most of his life for high school, which is fine, but the problem was that he coped with alcohol, and he was a big guy, so he could handle a lot of alcohol all the time. I never met him. I always heard about him. I saw pictures of him because I had like people in my family who were like 100% Scandinavian. He was one of them. So like giant guy, corn silk hair, like piercing blue eyes, orange skin. Like he just looked like an alien. When I saw pictures of him, I'm like, what the fuck? But that was my grandmother's brother. Is that right? Yeah, it was. So he would have been like my great uncle or something like that. Because it wasn't my dad's brother. It was on my dad's side of the family. That was fascinating, looking at pictures of all these relatives I had that passed away I never met. I'm like, they're related to me? I remember even seeing my grandmother. For the longest time, my brother had this picture of my grandmother by his bed. And I thought it was just some like generic pinup picture of like, really pretty 50s gal. That was my grandmother. I never knew that. She looked just like Doris Day. She was fucking hot. I'm like, way to go, Grandpa. Good choice. Anyways, Veterans Outreach. Yeah, I remember going through I'm sorry, I deviate so much. I remember doing the interview and I volunteered there. And their plan was, because my mom worked there, and they liked my mom, and they just wanted to meet me. And they could kind of see, like, oh, okay, he's going through some shit. We're going to have you do this for a while. But they really wanted me to actually be, like, the manager at the Veterans Village by the Oregon State Police Station. I've been there several times. And that actually would have been an interesting job. I did have a few moments where I had to step in at the outreach, and I actually helped a client that came in and a coworker. Believe it or not. It's like I could just tell they were doing some shit, and it was like, all right, I know what to do. I'll be back. And I brought my boots and everything. It was, that's another story, but I think it helped them. And it kind of showed where like my emotional intelligence, which I think is just another word for intelligence, honestly, and compassion comes in. I don't think of myself as a compassionate person. I think of myself as a pretty angry badass. But I've been told I do have enough compassion, so that's good. I do need to work on it, but it is a boon. It is an ally. For lack of a better word, it's something good to work with that will help me and make me successful. So yeah, that was kind of my experience of the Veterans Outreach. When she passed away, that was hard to hear, because I started learning how important she was and how much she contributed there and other areas of her life. And I was like, oh my God, she's a really important person that's going to be missed. But I'm glad I went to her funeral. I wish I would have talked to more people there. They were at the Veterans Outreach. But, I can still go over there and talk to them. I plan on doing that. Just letting them know how I'm doing, and maybe bring some gifts that they wanted to get. Some stuff my dad could make. Yeah, it was really powerful going to her funeral. It was the first time I went to a Catholic church. And like when I was sitting near the front row by the stained glass that they had there, it actually reminded me of something Jordan Maxwell was talking about. They had like some Catholic thing written on there. I'm like, oh my God, I remember him talking about this. I actually worked with some people that actually rescued him. They extracted him from some shithole in West Hollywood or something he was surviving in. And actually got him into a rest home so he could live his life in dignity until he passed away, like soon afterwards. But he's a really good source of research and intelligence. That was really a big boon to the HRVG or Future Forecasting Remote Viewing Group, which I got to work with a little bit. Yeah, so that was powerful when I saw that. And we did the whole like traditional Catholic thing they do at the funerals, which is just kind of a lot of rituals and stuff like that they do, and they had something to do with beads and stuff like that. But they're very accommodating to people who are non-Catholic, which is good. And I even got to be a pallbearer for a hot minute, accidentally. Wasn't intended. I was thinking of being ballsy enough to go through it all the way, but just for a second I was. I really had to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and the gal thought I was a pallbearer, and I was like, oh, no, I just need to get back to my seat. So I was standing there with the other pallbearers walking out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to walk here, sneak out, back into the sanctuary, whatever they call it. Whatever they call it at church, the church room. And yeah, I was able to sit back down. But I was the pallbearer for a hot second. I felt good about that. I think she saw that, and she probably smiled. She's like, yeah, that's Bryant. He's a weird duck. But he means well. But she had a proper funeral. Motorcade, no expense no expense was spared. Can't talk, sorry. Which is good. So she got a really very well respected funeral, which is good. God, that might have been the first one I went to as well. The first funeral. Shame on me. I hope to not go to any more for a while. That's all I'm saying. And I learned a lot about her, how much she did with her life, and never bragged about it or shared it. It was pretty amazing. Inspiring to me. She did stuff that I wasn't ballsy enough yet to do, but she did it. So, pretty inspiring gal. I hope to fill part of her shoes someday. That would be pretty cool.